Hello, this is William Clark for the Last Stand podcast. This is number 5 in my series. I want to talk to you today. I want to mention something that is essential in writing a good story. Is fearlessness. I'm not talking about, storming the castle, overtly kind of fearlessness. I'm talking about internal fearlessness. What I mean by that is that when you're writing a story, if it's a fiction story especially, and you're putting your own feelings and trepidations and hopes and dreams and goals into the characters, which are probably many in the book, that you be fearless with your emotions. It's going to cause for a degree of vulnerability on your part as a writer. People will like characters in a story if they recognize something in themselves in the character. It's true. So I guess what I'm talking about today is that you need to be fearless. You need to not be afraid to get outside that comfort zone. And I don't even like that term, comfort zone. I don't even know what the hell that means, but you need to get outside of what you normally use as a protection or a mask that you use for other people to see that hide who you really are. Writing novels, writing books, short stories, gives you a chance to get out from behind that mask and let people see who, in a weird kind of way, who you really are. It's a daunting task, and it's something you don't do every day, obviously. Most people don't. Most people live behind these masks of an attitude and a way of living that we want people to believe we really are, when in fact we're not even close to that. I wrote a book called Coloma Woods. There's a book. I wrote it a couple of years ago, one of the 14. My picture on the back. And I discussed 2 things in the book that my characters encountered. They encountered medallions that they found. One guy found. They were ancient. And they were part of a set. And it's set in modern day. In the town that I live in, here in Michigan. And each of these medallions, there were 2 of them, each of the medallions carried a magical power that could be used if they were worn around the neck. One of the medallions was invisibility, and the other medallion would enable the individual who were wearing the medallion to fly. Actually take off and go. And I go into great depth in the book, Coloma Woods, about the character trying out both. And the scary and sometimes hilarious ramifications of using them. My point for telling you this about this story, as a writer, I want you to get outside of that quote-unquote comfort zone and think of situations that your character or you would never encounter in real life, but in this story, they do. Not only is Coloma Woods, the book I wrote about this, have to do with this individual's finding these medallions, but they are of great value and a really, really powerful organization that has been around since the time of Christ, probably, has been in charge of these medallions. They were lost, and now in modern day they have been found by this individual. And the book itself talks about how this organization is going after these medallions to find them, and the destructive path it leaves behind as they search for them. And as my hero tries to escape this, as we've talked in the past, overwhelming force that's coming after him. He tries out both medallions. First, he tries out the invisibility medallion. He's in his living room. He's not working this day, and he figures, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. Puts the medallion on, the invisibility medallion, and he's invisible. He does this in front of his wife, who comes home later from work, scares the bejesus out of her. She tells him to get rid of him. But he doesn't. He hangs on to him. Because can you imagine, in your mind, what it'd be like to be invisible? That you could turn it on and you could turn it off. What's he do with that one invisible medallion? What would you do? What he does, he lives in a small town, like I do. There's a McDonald's and a Burger King and several other restaurants, a True Value hardware store, normal stuff in small towns. He puts the medallion on and he goes to the local supermarket just to use it, just to walk around in the supermarket, just to see what happens. Well, because he has temptation and he has ability, he goes behind the cash register where a lady is doing purchases, and he steals money out of the cash register. He would never have done that in his entire life as a normal person, not invisible. He's an upstanding citizen. He votes, he's got a mortgage, raised his kids, never done a bad thing in his life as far as the law is concerned. And yet here he is, invisible, standing behind the store clerk, and he takes money out of the register. Of course, he feels guilty for it. So, in an attempt to make things better, he steps away from the cash register, walks a little bit into the foyer of the building, takes the medallion off. Well, there happens to be a bag boy standing nearby, and this bag boy watches this man materialize out of nowhere. As you can see, it would cause a great deal of consternation with the shoppers in the supermarket. That's just one of the little things that are in the book Coloma Woods. But what I'm trying to get to is that how would we act? How would you act as a person if you could fly or be invisible? You can't do them both at the same time. You should do one. Now, as a kind of a mechanics thing, I've got hundreds of skydives. I'm a Class D license holder skydiver. I've made hundreds of jumps, California, all over the United States. And I can tell you, at street level, the ground looks a certain way, familiar. From 8,000 to 10,000 feet up in the air, the ground looks completely different. One of my characters in this book ends up getting possession of one of the medallions, the one that allows you to fly. He puts it on. He learns how to take off and go. He leaves Michigan and he ends up in Iowa because he got up too high and he was just going. He also about froze to death. Point is, that's the mechanics of flight. It's cold, you got speed, height, and you can't recognize the ground. The point is, what would you do? Would you be invisible or would you fly? I'll open questions about that. Tell us all about personality. You know, we live in a world now here in the United States where we feel that invisible power. Yeah, we sense it. We fear it. And then on days we don't fear it. It's like whistling past a graveyard. What are you going to do to me? Trust me, they can do a lot. And that power out there that you sense, that you can't see, is very real. And I'm not going to get metaphysical here, and I'm not going to go all woo-woo on you. But I can tell you, as I've gotten older, I haven't gotten smarter about the world. I've gotten smarter about who I am. And you'll experience this. Right now, you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, got the world figured out. You do not have the world figured out. You think you do. It's called Hubris. I had it in spades in my 30s and 40s. Man, I had a TSSCI clearance. I was working for the feds. I was traveling the United States, doing all kinds of really cool stuff. Thought I had it all figured out. I get in my 70s where I am now. I find out that the world is a far more dangerous, mysterious, and hidden entity that I ever believed would be possible. That's the thing about getting older. You end up knowing more about yourself and less about the world around you. Found that out. Finding it out now every day. But in Coloma Woods, it's kind of a metaphor for what's happening to people in general. If you're paying attention and you're cognizant and you've got your faculties, you'll pick up a lot of wisdom as you get older. I like to think I have. I'm doing a podcast, for Christ's sake. Never thought I'd be doing this. A nobody writer in the middle of Southwest Michigan. Who would have thought it? My point is, guys, ladies and gentlemen out there, be cognizant of the fact that you don't know it all. You really don't. I once had a guy tell me, he showed me a really nice example of wisdom. He took a piece of paper and he drew a circle around it, big circle on this piece of paper. And then he said, I'm going to draw a line across this circle, top or bottom or some small space, of everything you know. Everything. All your knowledge. Everything you know. Big circle. And he drew a line across a small little corner of that. And he said, okay. And the rest of the circle is everything in the universe that needs to be known. Now look how small that little space on top is of what you know. And look how big this rest of the circle is of what you don't know. Yeah. The world's a very mysterious place, folks. It has a lot in it that we can't even comprehend. So, I guess what I'm saying is that hubris can be toxic. An attitude of, been there, done that. Well, maybe you haven't. And maybe you want to have the courage and the insight to keep looking, keep watching, keep learning. I'm a good example of that. Like I said, in my 30s and 40s, I thought, got this figured out. Just going to cruise on into my retirement. Piece of cake. You know, there's an old Jewish saying, Yiddish saying, you want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans. I told God my plans many times. He'd smile and nod and say, okay, Bill, okay. Keep searching, keep looking, keep learning. Coloma Woods is a book that'll show you what one person's journey is about in that endeavor. It's on Amazon. Another shameless promotion. It's one of the 14. Came out a couple of years ago. Got great reviews. And by the way, it's the second book in the Redemption in Time series. That big, thick, 600-page book I showed you first. This is the second one in that series. There's a third. Again, it's about exploration of the human spirit, triumph, tragedy, sadness, happiness, all of that. Be open to all of that. Seek it. Look for it. Look for change. Because change is going to come whether you're looking for it or not. It's always better when you see it coming. As you get older, dare to question, dare to look behind the curtain, And on that big circle, and that little bit of space that you know, try to make that line go down a little further. Like I say, just about every time I talk about this kind of thing, is that you can always be better. You can always be smarter. You can always be more kind. You can always be more compassionate. It's tough in a world like today where everybody's offended by everything. I know people are probably going to be offended by me just talking like this. Who does that white guy think he is? Uh-huh. Well, I got suspenders, so that gives me authority. And I got a beard, so I know stuff. I'm having a good time. I enjoy talking to you about these things. I get a chance to promote the books, which is my main thrust. And I want to encourage you, you older guys, you older gals, start writing. Start keeping a journal. Start building a character. Let's start talking about making a book. And let's get it published. Because your story and your journey of discovery is important. It really is. And people are interested. There's 300 million people in this country. I guarantee you one or two are going to want to listen to what you have to say. I'm hoping. I want to thank you for supporting me on this channel. I see the likes. I see the subscriptions. It's pretty cool. In fact, it's wonderful. Thank you. So, hit a like, hit the subscribe. If you like what I say, if you don't, that's okay. It is what it is. Like I always say, and how I always end my podcast, because it was told to me when I was a private in the United States Army, 82nd Airborne Division. If you can't be safe, private, be sanitary. William out.